Well, welcome to another episode of Room Shots with Sean right here on the Rock Rage Radio Network. I have a very special guest. We're here to talk about an amazing event that's coming up. The one, the only Mr. Keith St. John. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Sean. How you doing? Thanks for talking to me today, man.
You're in Vegas.
I am currently. I'm dual state right now between California and Vegas. I'm more of a Cali guy now, but
I've talked to a lot of people that love Vegas. They say that the tax situation is better, but there's a lot of people that left LA to go to Vegas. Why is that?
100% true, especially during COVID-19.
Right.
Yeah, or whatever that was.
Yeah. Because
it seemed like the people who were sort of living in Southern Cal but hated what the government was doing or whatever during COVID, they got so fed up they just left. You came here, and this is close. You can fly back in 30 minutes. So,
well, I mean, it's an amazing place. We want to talk about this amazing event that you have on the go. A tribute to the one, the only, the late great Mr. Ronnie Montrose, who obviously, everybody that's anybody knows about this man. But tell us a little bit about this, Keith.
Well, not to get too deep into it, but it all started when I was asked if I wanted to do a show of mine, because I was involved with some shows around the NAMM convention. And for people who don't know what NAMM is, it's the Music Merchants Convention in Southern California in Anaheim. And it's been going on forever, I think since the 60s or whatnot. And it's the largest convention, or it was the largest convention before COVID in Southern Cal, boasting over 100,000 people every year on the weekend. And in 2016, I felt that the memorial service that we did for Ronnie was a little cut short in a way. Not everybody who was either friends with Ronnie or had played in bands with Ronnie was able to make it up to San Francisco when we did the thing that we did at the Warfield, because it was within like a week or two of when he passed. It was really quick. So I said, yeah, I really do think it's important to do something. And I called a bunch of cats, my friends who played in Montrose in my years playing with Montrose, and a bunch of LA guys that I knew, guitar players, and pretty much everybody responded. And because they all, on the west coast of the US, all the burner guitar players grew up on Montrose. They grew up on that album, that first record, and they were all super into it. So just by chance, that first one in 2016 went great, and it was sold out and packed, and there was a lot of press. And what was going to be a one-off just turned into an annual thing. And so many great players, from the 80s, from the 70s. I mean, Carmine Appice, he's from probably the 60s, man. I mean, so many people have come down and played, and we've been so blessed to be able to do this in Ronnie's name. We raise money for Sweet Relief, which is a charity aimed at helping musicians out with a focus on medical needs. So that's something about the event. And it's the same but different playlist of kind of stars every year. And there's always new faces, and there's always some people that have been part of the family since the beginning we started doing this who want to do it. There's a lot of deep sort of Bay Area fans that come down because that's where Montrose was from. So like the hometown people who were into, back in the day, it was like Santana was up there, and then a lot of those members turned into Journey, and Ronnie and Sammy were up there, doing stuff before they met and after they met. The band Tesla's up there, Metallica's up there. I can go on and on and on, but Jefferson Airplane, et cetera, et cetera. But, there's just a wealth of amazing talent, from the Bay Area. And those people, those fans in the Bay Area were spoiled because, the local stuff that goes on up there and went on up there was so incredible for them back in the day. They had Bill Graham, who was running the Fillmore, and like everybody came through there. Day on the Green, blah, blah, blah. We played in Montrose, we played the 40th anniversary of Woodstock in Golden Gate Park because the Bay is just kind of a town that keeps doing that kind of stuff.
Right.
And in comparison, LA is a great city, but maybe it's just a little bit different as far as like having the having those kind of events happening and available to the fans. So it's great that a big a big parade of people come down that were fans of Montrose. Some of them back in the early '70s, and then a lot of them from my day with Ronnie, which lasted about 12 years. And there's nowhere else they can see that music anymore live. So that's what the event is, kind of.
Well, and it's funny because I get the presser, and I mean, I take part in events all the time where you're raising money for stuff, and I mean, where I live, there's all kinds of great local musicians, but I'm looking at this is like a who's who I grew up listening to. I mean, Dave Ellefson, Stacey Blades, Troy Luccketta. I'll tell you a funny story about Troy Luccketta. There was a band that used to come up to Halifax all the time that used to play here. Rob Hanna, he was a Rod Stewart tribute act, and everybody that played in his band that was a drummer always talked about Troy Luccketta and Jimmy DeGrasso as being absolute monsters in the Bay Area of drums. And then you come to find out Leonard Hayes and guys like that. This is just going to be a banger of an event. I'm just looking at it right now and I'm going like, man, oh man, I got invited to NAMM. I really should be going. You know what I mean?
Well, let me just say there's still a lot of names that are coming that have to wait on time commitments and whatnot that I can't announce yet and haven't been able to. So there's a few more things. Follow my Instagram, Keith St. John, or my the Ronnie Montrose Remembered Facebook page to check out announcements and get alerts. So there's already a bunch of people committed. You mentioned Jimmy DeGrasso and Troy Luccketta and Dave Ellefson. Well, Dave Ellefson and Jimmy DeGrasso played together in Megadeth. I don't know if you're aware.
Yep.
And they were like such a tight rhythm section that our manager at the time, Scott Barret, knew them, and he hired them, or we hired them to be in Montrose for a few years together.
Nice. And
actually, Jimmy stayed on drums longer than David. But for a good solid 2-3 years, the two of them were both in the band, and it was hot shit, man. It was good, man. And Jimmy is a monster, as you say.
Absolutely. And for you and anybody that goes, okay, well, I recognize Keith St. John, but I mean, you've got a high register voice, right? I mean, you've got that type of vocal, like. If a guy like you came around when I was in high school, I would have done anything to have you in my band, because people that have your range don't typically come along. And I mean, you had to replace, a few people, and did it very, very well in different bands. Who were some of your influences coming up, Keith?
Vocal influences? I think it's the typical bluesy hard rock vocal influences. Early Glenn Hughes was. Somebody turned on to that, and it blew my mind, man. And Steve Marriott, of course, Paul Rogers and Robert Plant. So I don't, it kind of goes without saying.
Right.
But also, as a writer, McCartney, just endless. And he wasn't really known for his voice that much, but I mean, he's a mofo singer. I mean, that guy, in his younger years could sing anything. And almost anything that any singer did after that, Paul already did it in some way, shape, or form. And so, when I was a kid, where I grew up, I mean, my parents or somebody, there was a lot of Beatles and a lot of 60s music being played. So, so that's in my mind and always there. But, once you get into the hard rock, you start listening to the bluesers, and that's a whole other world, And like I said, those singers that I named, I could go on and on, but, those guys were probably the biggest influences.
So I'm looking at this guest list that's ever expanding, and I mean, obviously everybody does it because they want to help. And I love that you gave the audience the background of what you're raising money for, because I think that's very important. How does one maneuver this in such a way? Because there's a lot of, I'm not going to say egos, but there's a lot of healthy attitudes that are on this thing, and they all want to show up and they all want to do their part for Ronnie and for the thing. But what does somebody like you're putting this together, and you must have a checklist of every possible scenario that could happen, that might happen, might not happen. Is that pretty much how you're running things?
Sorta. I mean, I would say I'm kind of an on the fly guy. So when stuff happens in the clutch, you know, I'm pretty okay with handling it. I got good people that love to work at this event and work with me and handle, you know, the stage management of getting the artists on and off, and, you know, some people to run around. And if I got to pick up people from another event or from a, you know, a dinner with, you know, Fender or PRS, and grab them and get them over there in time to play their song, I just work it all out as it comes. You know, that's all I can do. I will say a lot of the folks have some kind of special connection, or they played with Ronnie or something. You know, a lot of the folks are definitely connected. You know, I look at the lists and I'm like, well, almost everybody, you know, there's some kind of Montrose connection with them. And, you know, like I mentioned with DeGrasso and Ellefson, they were both in the band. Troy Luccketta, you brought up. Troy Luccketta actually produced the fourth Gamma record. Gamma was a band Ronnie Montrose did after the original incarnation of Montrose. And they put out 4 or 5 records. And there's a ton of Montrose fans that are Gamma fans, so we always need to play a few Gamma songs. So Troy was connected to Ronnie too, and you know, we see each other around town up in the Bay Area. You know, they come to our shows, we go to their shows. Brad Lang is playing bass. He's from Y&T. For a while, they were under the same management, and we would do like co-headliners in flip-flop cities. You know, who's going first and second kind of a thing, and there's just a lot of those kind of stories with all these guys. So,
very cool, man. I gotten to know Troy's son, Troy Jr., a little bit, and I'm a drummer myself, so I joke around that if I ever meet Troy, I feel like I owe him some sort of royalty check for licks borrowed type thing, because he's, you know, and it's just funny how all the way up here in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and people would talk about those guys, and the Bay Area is just so rich in music and musicians and whatnot. For anybody that didn't know Ronnie personally, and I mean, for me, again, that first album, I mean, fantastic stuff. You know, as a drummer, Denny Carmassi, just everything he's done has been fantastic. But Ronnie, as a man, a human being, forget about the talent. What was he like?
You know, he had his leadership side, you know.
Yeah.
And he was super firm about a lot of stuff, like, you know, like great minds are. But he knew what the fuck he was doing, you know. I mean, he taught us all a lot. You know, getting on stage with him, you kind of, you know, you absorbed from the master, you know.
Sure.
And the other masters. You know, for me, Ronnie and I didn't meet by him putting together a new Montrose lineup. He was done with Montrose when I met him, and he was living way out in the sticks in Sierra Madre, out east of Los Angeles, you know. He knew somebody that I knew, and they said, you guys need to meet up, because Ronnie wanted to just write new music. And this guy had done a session with me and my band, which was called Burning Rain at the time, and he wound up introducing me and Ronnie. And so Ronnie and I got together just writing, and I didn't know even the first Montrose record. I grew up in New York, and you know, that wasn't that big unless you were a real hard rock guy, which I really wasn't. You know, I was kind of, you know, more of a classical music, traditional music, Broadway, you know, all that stuff. And then I just kind of got pulled into it and brought out to LA, you know, to start working on projects and records, because some people like my voice.
Right.
So Ronnie said to me, I don't really have any contacts at LA guys anymore. Can you find us a band, right? So the first person I called was Pat Torpy to play drums.
Doesn't
who
suck.
was a monster,
Oh
you know.
yeah,
Me
absolutely.
coming from traditional music, you know, I was a big Buddy Rich fan, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And Pat to me was like, I knew
Yeah.
about him because Burning Rain was had a little career going in Japan, and Mr. Big was just they were the Beatles over there, you know.
Mhm.
Were like the Led Zeppelin in Japan, the biggest band there. And he said, yeah, he'd love to do it. And so between him and Ronnie and Chuck Wright, the bass player, you know, I was way down on the stack, you know. I learned a lot from all those guys. And I'm a drummer as well, by the way.
Here's the thing: we talk about this a lot, Keith, like the power of networking, right? Because a lot of people don't realize that they think you're going to get discovered on YouTube, like Arnell from Journey, and it's you got to be a good hang first. I mean, you could be the best musician at anything, and if you're a complete a hole, nobody wants to be around you or deal with you. Correct?
That's true. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course. And
yeah.
it's more so now because the industry is small. You know, it's thinner. You know, the kind of music we play.
Hmm.
Um, it's a lot healthier, I think, over in Europe. They still do a lot of big rock festivals and metal festivals, hundreds of them. So U.S. is a little bit more flavor of the moment still, I think.
So
So
how's this event going to work? So it's at NAM. People are going to be going to NAM. How are you guys going to be running this in conjunction with a huge event that's going to take place?
okay, so it's at the House of Blues, Anaheim, which is less than 1 mile from the convention center. So easy to Uber, easy to get to. Um, so that's it, man. I mean, with House of Blues, it's Live Nation. So they take care of all the ticket sales, and that's it.
Right.
This is the first year I'm doing House of Blues. Previously, I've done these other halls, and we get like Eventbrite or whatever to sell tickets off of, and I have to deal with all that. Long story short, I had a screwball promoter partner
Uh-oh.
who, you know, I can't get too deep into this, but it's just it was time to split. You know,
Yeah.
he was a promoter partner, and it seemed like we had the right kind of arrangement. But hey, man, we're raising money for Sweet Relief, dude. I mean, so enough said, man. And it was time to move on, and a nice LA agency who I've worked with for many years hooked me up with somebody at Live Nation and got us the House of Blues room there. So that's it. I mean, you go to House of Blues Anaheim website and you just look up January 24th, 2025, and you're going to see the date, and you can just click the link for tickets. All the promo that goes out, and I'm sure at the bottom of this interview, you'll have a ticket link that people can just hit and get there. This is a different style event than we've ever done because it is a smaller room than we've done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm making the entire thing basically a VIP event. So almost everybody going except maybe the last row and the far back is going to get stuff, So,
Very cool.
So almost everyone's going to get some kind of special pampering, special treatment, meet and greets, T-shirts, guitar picks, a little bag of goodies, etc., etc. And they're going to be amazed once again by people playing this music, because basically when they come out and play this music, when it's what you grew up on, and you get out there and you're honoring your childhood hero,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like I learned this the first year. Everyone goes like completely all out. It's not just, I'll show up at jam, do this here, and then go do something else at NAMM. It's like, no, I'm playing Space Station number 5, and which I learned when I was 9, for some of these guys. And it's like, it's amazing to watch. So, and that's that, it's a regular, festival style gig, guys are on and off pretty quick. And I got to have a lot of techs and little handlers to get the guitars in and out quick, reset the drums really quick, and just keep it going. Marcy Weiser is hosting, kind of co-hosting with me. So I'll be busy on stage all night, but she'll take some of the pressure off me. And she's a great host, great speaker, etc.
So here's the thing. A lot of people go, "Oh, Keith's putting on an event," and they think that you're working on it for about a week, and you throw it together, and boom, there it is. And something like this, you're probably starting the planning for the next one within a couple of months of the past one.
Certain things, especially deciding, I'm waiting for this one to pass to see how everything works out at House of Blues over there, because it's the first time. So if it seems like it's really happening, I mean, probably that night or the first thing the next morning, I'm going to get in touch with them and see if we can do it again. Can we come again next year and see what's going on? Yeah, there's a lot of planning, man. If you don't start putting it together by like August for an event of this size, August, September, then you're behind the ball, man.
No question. I said that we'd stick to this, but you know what? We're going to go a little bit rogue. What's on tap for Keith St. John in 2025? Because I was on your socials and you got a lot on the go. You had a lot on the go last year. What's on tap for you?
Let's see. So I mentioned earlier that Europe and South America, lots of places outside of the U.S. are kind of doing sort of my style of music that I'm into writing and recording. Mm-hmm. And I never really wanted to be somebody else's singer. I'm kind of a guy that just loves to be in the studio. I love recording. I don't have writer's block. I'll sit there and just write 40 songs a day if I could, right? So I like working with people that I feel have a good ear for, what the kind of music I like listening to. So when, usually a guitar player sends me some stuff, some tracks, and they're playing I really dig, and they're writing I really dig, I'll maybe take up doing a little project with them. And some of that stuff has been good for me. Sometimes it's a moneymaker, and sometimes it's just great for the soul, just to do it and get it out. But most of the time with this style of music that I do, it's been guys from Europe reaching out. So I've been over there a little bit more. I've noticed that I could do my own just straight up Keith St. John tours over there, and it works. Mm-hmm. I could come back and not be broke, make a little money, get the music out and do it. And there's more fans over there than I thought. So there's a little bit more plans in 2025 than there were the last few years to go over there. It looks like I got something going on in April. Haven't announced the dates yet for a couple of weeks. In June as well, for almost the whole month of June. And then there's a festival in July that we're going to add more dates to. And all these things are different things with different people. So I'm looking to do that. I wrote and sang on a record with a Dutch artist named Ron Coolin not that long ago. He wants to get started on the next record and do another record. It was kind of the fusion of sort of that Euro metal with that really aggressive drumming that isn't on our 80s metal stuff over here in the US. It's that and pretty damn aggressive guitars, but there's a lot of those up and down sort of dynamic moments, like a Zeppelin thing. And he's like, Keith, you don't have to sing anyway, just do your thing and do what you do. And it came out pretty cool, and the whole record. The guy's name is Ron Coolin, Coolen, and the record's called Here to Stay. And it's got some pretty cool tracks on it. I think I don't usually announce this stuff and put it out there, but I'm actually really pretty proud of like 3 of the 4 or 5 of the cuts, really all of them. But there are some pretty cool standouts. And the guy's a great guy, easy to work with. So, who knows? Maybe we'll eventually play live with that thing too. But awesome. Another Ron Coolin album coming.
I'm gonna have to go look at that. So I guess last, and I saw some stuff of that you had been doing live with different sorts of things, and again, you get that register that it's I don't want to say it's a dying breed. It's just not a lot of people can really do it properly. We went through that period in the 90s where everybody kind of wanted to be Eddie Vedder. Nothing against that, but I think it caused a bit of a gap in the music for me.
Right. Well, it's nice that you can sing high again, and it's cool, and you can have chops. Absolutely. In the younger bands, they got some great vocal chops going on, and I love to hear that and see it.
Yep.
Also the St. John record is being worked on still, and 2 different people played on that, and but it's coming together, and I hope to get it out this year. Working on that.
I'll be watching. Well, hey man, we'll make sure that we get that in the and we'll I'll stay on top of that with Raquel and make sure that when that comes out, we'll get some plugs. Last question, my man. How do people go on? Where do they go and find tickets, get tickets, attend this event, which is a little over 3 weeks away? It's hard to believe, but
yeah, well, get on your smartphone and just type in RonnieMontroseRemembered.com, and the description is there. The link to tickets is there, which will take you right to the Live Nation site. And if you go to the .com, you'll see how the seating works out and which VIP level is in what section. So that explains it and makes it all a little clearer. And because, people are emailing me who just stumble across it at Live Nation, and their description of the seating map isn't as clear as mine is, I think. Let's just put it that way.
We'll go with Keith.
But it is individual seats.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for doing this, and best of luck with this event. I'm gonna, I will be following up with Raquel because I'm sure it's going to be a banger. Like I say, a virtual who's who, and a lot of people that I've interviewed on my show are in there, so that's very cool, man.
Nice, man. Are we still on the air?
We are.
We are. Yeah, I saw you talk. Okay, so I'm in Vegas right now, and the reason I'm here is I'm moonlighting in this show called Raiding the Rock Vault, which a friend of mine, Howard Leese, was one of a guitar player from Heart, original, and he was one of the brains behind putting this show together, and was the musical director when they started it out like 10 or 11 years ago. And they bring me in once in a while to sub in when I could, when somebody needed a sub. Those singers rarely subbed, and so I knew the show, and the owner called me a couple of years ago to see if right after COVID, as Vegas was opening back up, he's like, "You want to do this show and come out and be a cast member?" I was like, "Yeah, let's give it a try." And so I'm still doing it, and it's been about 2.5, almost 3 years now that we're doing it. And I wanted to check out your show, so the first interview that came up, the link that came up right away, was with Phil Soussan.
Oh yes.
So Phil's a buddy, and he's done the the Rock Vault show a whole bunch, and he's another monster player, super nice dude, and I just saw him backstage at the REO show. They did the last REO show of all time, supposedly.
How was that?
Out here in Vegas. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Kevin Cronin is a beast. He's a monster. He's 70 something, man, and he is running around, never stops talking, never stops singing. He's a pleasure to just sit back and watch and go, man, I wish I was that young again.
Styx played here in May, and I have a band that I'm in, and we do some Styx tunes. And anyway, we went, and it was like a religious experience for me because I hadn't seen them live before.
No kidding.
No, and I actually helped set up a Todd Zuckerman clinic here, which was very well attended, and it was like a religious experience, man. Like, how the air stands up on your arms, and it was like it was incredible. And to see those two bands touring next year is going to be lights out crazy. So
except it's REO is going to be called now the Kevin Cronin Band. Is what I heard.
We didn't see that coming. We didn't see that coming, did we?
That's what I heard.
And I want to thank you for watching that. Phil was an absolute joy. And part of what I really liked talking to Phil about was his time with the Grammy group, because, he was doing some very important work there that I think, some musicians should be thankful for. So,
absolutely. 100% agree.
I want to thank you for doing this, my friend. And
thank you, Sean. Thanks for having me. You rock, buddy.
I'd like to follow up with you and find out how the event goes.
Right on. Sounds good, buddy. So are we going to see you maybe in NAMM one of these days?
Oh, you never know. You never know.
What is that, about a 7 hour? You got a direct flight from out there?
I don't think I had a direct flight from anywhere here. I'll tell you a funny story off camera before we go. But for now, best of luck with the event, my friend.
All right. Peace and love, people. Peace. Come and see Ronnie Montrose Remembered 2025 House of Blues Anaheim at the NAMM convention.
Man, for a guy that's doing this for the first time, you're pretty darn good, Keith St. John, let me tell you. Peace, brother.
Peace out, bud.